Welcome to Hood Champion Boxing and Sports. In boxing, you find a way to win or you find a way to lose. Canelo Alvarez does not have an easy road ahead of him. He needs to fight big names going forward. Canelo Alvarez is a beast. He's an exemplary fighter. I want to make sure I put that out there right now. Do not think I'm slamming Canelo Alvarez. Canelo Alvarez has proven to be one of the elite fighters in the sport. He's been able to evolve his style from being a boxer puncher, not really much of a dancer, to a kind of high guard, walk you down pressure fighter that gets you out of there with his super heavy hands, hard, lethal blows. The problem is Canelo Alvarez has been choosing to pursue legacy, trying to be great. And I honestly feel Canelo Alvarez was finding it pretty easy to get opponents out of there. And the reason why he's been finding it easy, now this is my opinion. Remember Mike Tyson? Before Mike Tyson got in the ring, his opponents were already defeated because of the intimidation, because of the moment, because of knowing what's standing across from you. If you watch somebody on TV knocking people silly over and over and over again, and now you have to get ready to prepare to fight this person, that can play in the back of your mind. The thing about it is when that starts to tie up your brain, it gives your opponent an advantage. So in the mental warfare game, you're already up, and your opponent is already trying to figure out how to win. They've already created somewhat of a deficit. And then when it's time for fight night, and they have those two combatants in front of each other, and the referee is giving them the rules of the fight or talking to them, hey, get ready to touch gloves. You can watch in the body language that there can be a bit of a kink in the armor of those fighters. And I think with Canelo Alvarez and what he's been able to do, really, at 168 and whatever, any weight that he fought at, a lot of his opponents were already defeated except for Triple G and Bivol and Amir Khan. But there was really no contest there, okay? But when Canelo got used to just dominating people like that, he wiped out a lot of different names. Canelo clipped a lot of different names. I'm not saying he clipped the toughest competitors in those in different weight divisions, but he clipped some names, okay? But we just saw what happened with Canelo and Bivol. So now Canelo's looking for a sense of reprieve. Okay, he lost. He had a goal. My goal was to go and I already became undisputed at 168. My goal is to become undisputed at light heavyweight, 175 pounds. For some reason, I genuinely feel twofold now. The first thing is he looked at his performance against Kovalev. Kovalev at that time, he was a killer, okay? He wasn't. I wouldn't say he was out of his prime, but he was still a very worthy opponent. But in that fight with Alvarez, something seemed fishy. In my opinion, Kovalev didn't look like the killer that he once was. Alvarez dusts him, gets him out of there. Everyone is on Alvarez. People are, and it wasn't that fight to force people to say something. Alvarez is cherry picking opponents, right? A lot of people were talking about that fight, how something didn't seem right. Because Alvarez was just ascending up the ladder, man. Ascending up weight divisions. Clipping opponent after opponent after opponent. 3 to 4 fights in a year. It's unheard of. But he wasn't taking any damage, and he was just overwhelming opponents. But you look at what he did to those fighters, okay? And then now he decides, I'm going to go up and take on Bivol. He gets in there with Bivol. We know what happened, okay? He didn't make any adjustments. Bivol fought an outstanding fight. But the one person that gave him real problems, and I think he won both fights, was Triple G, okay? Canelo, body language-wise, didn't really look that good, in my opinion. But he got through those fights. He gets in there with Bivol, kind of walks into a very similar situation. If you watch those fights with Triple G and you watch that fight with Bivol, Canelo Alvarez's body language was very discouraging, very questionable, and looked very doubtful. Because it's almost like he was perplexed because he couldn't damage the opponent in front of him, and he wasn't getting his way, and he had to fight and fight hard. He started to look a bit lethargic. But he got two gift decisions, in my opinion, with Golovkin. But they was trying to rob Bivol, but Bivol fought so superbly that you had to give him the win. Like, it was such a masterclass, you had to give him the win. So now Canelo Alvarez wants to get his revenge. Looking for a sense of reprieve now. So now he's talking about fighting Bivol in a rematch. But catch this, right? He wants it to be at 168 pounds. Now, my question to you, right? Is that even a rematch? If you're fighting somebody at a different weight? That's not a damn rematch. Now, yeah, you're fighting the same opponent, but it's not at the same weight. So how the hell does that constitute a rematch? It just doesn't seem right to me. If I go and run a 100-yard dash against you, right? And I dust you. And now you say, oh, come, let's run a 400-yard dash, let's run a 400. Or let's run a mile. And we get out there in a mile, it's like, well, hold on. Yeah, I'm racing you again. But shit, man, it's a 100-yard dash versus a damn mile? A 400, 800, 1,600 yards? That's not a damn rematch. It's not a level playing field. So if we're going to do a no-kidding, legitimate rematch, everything has to be the same. But Canelo's out here, which unfortunately he can do, trying to give himself an advantage. Now, true, Bivol said he would like to become undisputed at 168. But Bivol can't make 168. He can't make it, people. The man set out for a year during all that COVID stuff. Man was eating some good food. Man blew up like a French bread. He swole up like a French bread. Then he had to go out there and try to cut that weight. So him cutting weight is not as easy as it was. So now he's going in here and it looks to be backpedaling. So Bivol is looking to have conversations. He hasn't said no, but he hasn't said yes. I think he'll be tempted to go after 168 and get that undisputed distinction and lift that off of Canelo Alvarez. But we know Canelo Alvarez, if he can weight drain you, he'll weight drain you. Floyd Mayweather was another one. Hey, you want to come fight me? I'm naturally running around here at 130, 135 pounds, 140. I just ballooned up to 147 chasing greatness. But really, I should be fighting at a much lower weight class. I can do it. And if you big boys want to come fight me, well, you're going to meet me at where I want it, where I'm comfortable. 150 pounds, 151 pounds, 152 pounds. You see, because Floyd, like he always says, I am the A side, right? He's the A side. Canelo Alvarez learned from that. So now, Canelo Alvarez was struggling, fighting down to 150s, 160, 168 he feels comfortable, 175 he feels great. But 168 is where, he seems to really thrive at. But to try to bring Bivol down there, which he can, Bivol, if he does it, hey, it's up to him. But why would you go out there and handicap yourself when you know that? Don't go and Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. yourself. For what? You know, you dominated Canelo to the point to end the rematch. Canelo, that Bivol's the betting favorite. You bet $100 on Canelo. If Canelo wins, you get paid out $160 right now. If in the rematch, if Canelo was to win. So, but Canelo Alvarez, for the first time, is the underdog. And it's been a long time. I don't even know if Canelo Alvarez, I think since Floyd Mayweather. So now he's the underdog. But he's trying to give himself an advantage. And I just don't think that, it doesn't matter what weight he fights Bivol at. If Bivol can get to 168, I think Bivol still beats him. But I do think that'll give Canelo a bit more of an advantage. But at the same time, Canelo Alvarez has to lose weight too. And, you know, he doesn't like cutting weight. And he's not a dancer. He walks around, his feet are always planted. He's always looking to throw hard, heavy shots. That's exhausting. And against a guy like Bivol, who can float like a butterfly and sting like a bee, you know, it doesn't matter what weight they fight at. I honestly think, well, you know, at 168, anything below 168, I think Bivol kills himself. But I think at 168, I still think Canelo Alvarez will lose that fight. But he's trying to give himself an advantage. And I just think I just think Bivol shouldn't do it. But at the same time, I don't think Canelo beats him. Like, what can Canelo do different? You know, there's some people saying that Canelo come back in the rematch and he'll outbox him. And how is Canelo going to outbox him? Canelo, since when has Canelo been a boxer? Since when has he been a boxer puncher? Canelo Alvarez walks you down, man. You know, he's not a guy he's not De La Hoya. Get up, who can get in there and scrap, but then get on his toes and box. Miguel Cotto, who can sit there, man, stand with his feet planted, set and explode on you. And then if he has to, get up on his toes and box and look light on his feet and box a whole 12 rounds. That's not Canelo Alvarez. He may do a little weird kind of backpedaling kind of thing, but it's only to get himself out of range, and it's just creating space. Then he goes back to, you know, planting his feet and, you know, just using his upper body to get out of the way of punches and countering you. And that's Canelo Alvarez, man, in a nutshell. So now when you think about it, if he doesn't fight Bivol, if they don't rematch, then that opens the doors for him and Triple G, okay? And Eddie Hearn's sitting on the side. Eddie Hearn doesn't care what Canelo does. Eddie Hearn still, like he said, he's going to get paid regardless. Eddie Hearn will put Canelo in there with a crocodile. He doesn't care. But Canelo and Triple G, let me tell you, that fight has just become super intriguing because Canelo didn't look invincible against Bivol. And Triple G, everyone initially after Triple G fought Murata was saying that Canelo would just destroy him. I said that. I honestly felt that way. But to see Canelo end up with Bivol and see how he just clams up when someone's coming forward pressuring him, he doesn't like that. And if you're someone who can hurt him, he's not going to sit there and necessarily try to exchange with you and counter. He goes into full defense mode, and that's what he did against Bivol. Canelo wasn't trying to do too much countering off those ropes. And when he does, he's like one shot. Because obviously what Bivol was touching him with, he didn't like. Now when he gets in there with Triple G, this is just giving Triple G more motivation. Now I definitely think that Triple G won those first two fights, but he's not the same Triple G, the Kazakhstanian killer. He's not that guy. But I think he will have enough because, hey, I think he'll have enough to get in there and give Canelo a super difficult fight. And I say that because I'm going to do another video on this, but I'll just go ahead and drop a gem on you right now. As Canelo has been fighting as a professional since he's been 15 years old. This man is in his 30s. How much wear and tear has this man endured? How is it finally starting to show up in his performance? Now you can say, well, damn, you know, he only went in there and fought Bivol, and now you guys are ready to sign him off. No, I'm not. What I'm saying is fighters get old overnight. You understand? The legs go overnight. Canelo has done more sparring, more training than probably everyone who's boxing right now. He has more wear and tear on his body than probably almost all the boxers who are boxing right now. And when you think about that and you look at his performance against Bivol, just being a realist, you got to say, you got to ask the what if question. What if this man is starting to get old? Although he's still young, but as far as in boxing years, it's like dog life, dog years. And boxing years, Canelo must be about 63 years old because of all the wear and tear on his body. And maybe it's starting to show up. So when he gets in there with Triple G, we all know Triple G's in his 40s now. I just think that it's going to be more competitive than what I thought initially after seeing Triple G fight in Japan. Because Triple G getting hit in the body, he didn't like that. Canelo's a great body puncher. And Triple G is slowed enough to where Canelo can touch him. But at the same time, Canelo doesn't necessarily get out the way. Triple G can take a shot. He's got a chin, one of the best chins in the business. If Triple G hits him, he can hurt him. And I just see the two of them standing there. They're going to exchange because Canelo's not going to back up. He's not going to back up. And at the same time, to Canelo's credit, when Bivol had him on the ropes, right? And Bivol unleashed that like 10, 12 punch combination, a lot of those punches got through. And Canelo was eating those shots like grapes. It's like he was sitting out eating a bowl full of, it wasn't even seedless grapes. He was eating the grapes with the seeds. Like Canelo was just there eating that and swallowing it and like, okay, give me more. He came off the ropes and went back to business. So it's not like Canelo got beat down and hurt and bruised up in the fight. No, Canelo's defense was still on point for the most part. He did get touched up, but Bivol didn't hurt him. Now we're going to transition into the next point. If Bivol couldn't really damage him like that, and what I mean is like to buzz him, to knock him down, make him take a knee, okay? Triple G wasn't able to do that. And that was like a prime Triple G, okay? When we start talking about Canelo fighting Jamal and fighting David Benevidez, because to me, that's the direction he should go. If he doesn't rematch Bivol, he goes straight to Triple G. Or if that's not what he chooses to do, if he changes his mind, and then he doesn't want to go and fight in England, one of Eddie Hearn's fighters, because Eddie's going to take care of his guys. Let's say Canelo's going to look at Jamal and David Benevidez. If Bivol couldn't really damage Canelo, if Triple G couldn't really damage Canelo, can we be confident that Jamal and David Benevidez are the fighters at, one at 160 and one at 160 who can come up to 168? How can we be confident that they're the fighters that are going to be able to come in there and give Canelo, his first, like, really clean knockout? I think they give him a tough fight. Jamal and David Benevidez, that's a whole nother level of talent. But you guys really think Jamal and David Benevidez can clip Canelo when Bivol couldn't and when Triple G couldn't? So all of a sudden Jamal's going to be able to do it? Or David Benevidez? That's a fair question. And I don't know, I honestly don't know if they can get the job done. Canelo is still a special fighter. But the cherry picking now has got to stop. And we know Bivol is not a cherry pick, and Canelo knows that too. But what are his options really? There's no longer an easy road ahead of him. Jamal is definitely looking to come up to 168. But the thing that we have to understand about Jamal, see, Jamal is fighting Selecki, right? And that to me is a no-brainer. Jamal should win that. Can Selecki fight? Yes, man, going the distance with fighters. You don't just get in there and knock Selecki out. Selecki will fight you back. Can he be hurt? Yes. Jamal Charlo, in my opinion, hits harder than Gabe Rosado. Gabe Rosado doesn't necessarily get stronger as the fight goes on, but Gabe Rosado is not a guy who's just going to, just fall off around the 10th, 11th round. No, Gabe Rosado is going to keep fighting. And that's what happened with Selecki. he was out boxing and beating Gabe Rosado down. And Gabe Rosado, you got to shoot him. Gabe Rosado came and clipped him. Almost got him out of there. With Jamal Charlo, he hits harder. So you got to say, he's going to fight smart. Jamal's going to fight smart. You know him and his brother, especially Jamal. Jab, 1-2, may lead with a hook, come back, center of the ring, reset, tight guard. And that's pretty much Jamal's style. He can counter you with an uppercut. You throw a shot, he'll dip, boom, uppercut. So Jamal has a lot of tools in his bag. He should be able to clip Selecki. But going in there against Canelo, when Canelo starts walking him down, if Canelo can come and try to walk down Bivol and not really get hurt, why can't he do that against Charlo? Because Canelo's going to let his hands go. Charlo's not a dancer like Bivol. It's something you guys got to take a look at. Triple G's not a dancer like Bivol. Charlo's not a dancer like Bivol. Benevidez is not a dancer like Bivol. Bivol is a no-kidding boxer. Boxer puncher. Combination puncher. Super fast hands. Okay? And he can crack. And he's intelligent and disciplined. Triple G is going to be right in front of Canelo. Canelo shouldn't have no problem getting off on him, but Triple G shouldn't have no problem getting some of his shots off. But Triple G looks slower. He's going to stand in. Jamal can box and move, but his footwork is not as good as Bivol's, in my opinion. And he's not very light-footed. He'll box, he'll move around the ring, but he doesn't have that skill set when it comes to footwork as Bivol. But Jamal Charlo is an exceptional fighter. But this is something to the point I wanted to bring out when it comes to that. Okay, Jamal, people don't, even I did a video about him. Jamal Charlo, they say that him fighting Selecki is a waste of time. I think he beats him easy. At first I was saying it's a waste of time. He doesn't want to be great. But that's not necessarily the case. But Jamal and even Ronnie Shields, they both said this. These aren't my words, okay? That Jamal's a champion at 160 pounds. If he's going to leave 160 and go up to 168, Jamal's like, okay, why would I go fight Caleb Plant? What does he have? Nothing. Why would I go fight Benevidez? What does he have for me? Nothing. If I'm going to go up to 168, it's got to be worth it. It's got to make sense financial-wise and also the reward. The guy for me to go after at 168 is the guy with the belts, Canelo. So that's what Jamal is saying. He hopes this year he gets that fight with Canelo. But if not, he's going to keep fighting whoever they put in front of him. Meaning he's not going out there chasing after these high-risk fights with very little reward when he's already, the man at 160 pounds. And I understand what he's saying. Doesn't matter if we feel like he's being complacent, he's looking to cherry pick, he's looking to just stack his money up with easy fights. Doesn't matter. I understand now, after hearing what he said and his trainer Ronnie Shields said, I understand. Because Caleb Plant wasn't even talking about fighting Jamal Charlo when he had the belt. He went and lost, and now he wants to fight Jamal Charlo to try to make himself relevant again. And that's just the reality of it. But as far as Canelo and Charlo, that's a difficult fight. Charlo will be coming up to 168. He may be stronger. But again, Canelo starts walking him down and putting that pressure on. You got to look at Brian Castaño and Jamel. It's going to be a similar type fight. One guy's the aggressor, pressuring you. The other guy's the boxer puncher, moving around the ring. Just what happens when Jamal starts getting touched by Canelo? And then we can say, what happened with Canelo when he starts getting touched by Jamal? But we know Canelo's defense is super tight. I just think once you get into like that round 6 or 7, someone's going to pull away. And I'm not sure who it's going to be. But someone's going to pull away in that fight. And all I'm saying is, if Bivol couldn't hurt Canelo, Kovalev couldn't hurt him, Triple G couldn't hurt him in 2 fights, how all of a sudden are we going to say that Charlo's going to be able to do it or Benevidez is going to be able to do it? That's all I'm saying. And then David Benevidez. This man, 25 wins, 22 knockouts. So obviously there's something special about his hands. He's about to fight David Lemieux. We all know that's another no-brainer. He's going to go in there and clip Lemieux, no problem. Only chance Lemieux has is what he has in every fight. Lemieux is just a big Vic Darchinyan. The big left hook, left hand. Everything is the left. He'll throw his right hand, but it's the left hand. Without that left hand, Lemieux would be working at Walmart pushing carts. That left hand has gotten that man so much success in boxing. Super powerful left hand. But is he going to be able to really get that shot off against David Benevidez? David Benevidez is a smart fighter. Super tall, super long. Can box you on the outside, rattle off combinations. He likes to get in close and mix it up too. That's where he's going to give Lemieux an opportunity. Because this is the thing, when David Lemieux gets in close, he tries to throw the little hook to the body, then back up top. And when he dips to throw that, if Lemieux can catch that on his arm and time it, because Benevidez likes to throw that shot all the time. He'll walk in, dip, hook to the body, come back up top. And there's a pattern when David Benevidez is boxing. And it's a very easy pattern to figure out. And when he does that, and that dip through that gives Lemieux an opportunity, if he's been training this way, to let his shots go and get that left hook off where Benevidez is blinding himself because he's dipping and then he's throwing and then he's so focused on getting the other, coming back up top with the hook, he's no longer thinking about what's going on over here. And that's when you have a problem. And if Lemieux lands that clean, Lemieux can get him out of there. But that's just not going to be very easy. Lemieux's not really in his prime anymore, in my opinion. He's been knocked out a couple times. And I'm not sure how far he will get with David Benevidez. But still a good matchup, two big names. But I think, honestly, when it comes to Canelo Alvarez, if it's not Bivol, if it is Triple G, if it's not Triple G, Canelo Alvarez is in a position where he's kind of been backed into a corner, especially now that PBC is throwing out the numbers of what they're going to give him to fight, Jamal or Charlo. Jamal or Earl Spence or Benevidez. Huge money. And I did a video talking about Canelo is out here playing chess while everyone else is playing checkers. So I think we're going to definitely get one of those fights, probably in 2023. Because Canelo's going to fight either Bivol or Triple G next. That's something that was agreed with DAZN. So it's going to be one of them. And then later this year, you got another fight. There's no way in the world Canelo is going to fight Bivol twice in a year and then Triple G, or even say he's going to fight Bivol, then Triple G, then go at the end of the year and fight Charlo Benevidez. That's suicide, man. Canelo's not going to do that. He's not stupid. He's going to get in there. He had a tough fight with Bivol, heal up, either rematch him and fight Triple G, or later this year fight a kind of an easier fight, kind of like Floyd Mayweather and Berto. It's something to do, a something to do fight, but shouldn't be much of a threat. And then next year, going into next year, probably around maybe May, unless he wants to fight something in February, March, you may see him in there with Charlo or Benevidez. But outside of those guys, who's he going to fight? Andre? He's going to fight Eubank Jr.? Is he going to fight Munguia? Who's Canelo going to fight now? I really think the two names, I think the best fight for Canelo is Munguia, me personally. A lot of people disagree, but I think Munguia is the best fight. But as far as the really big names that can bring the most money, I think Charlo. I think Charlo is the man. Or Benevidez, one of those two, but I think Charlo is the man, especially if you do that in Texas. Because Charlo has a huge fan base, Mexican fan base, because he's from Texas. But Canelo, that's Canelo. So they're gonna have to find some facility that can house, 80 to 100,000 people. It's gonna be a zoo. And a Charlo from Texas too. That's perfect. Benevidez would be another great fight for him because, Mexican American. And that's another one where all Mexican fans know who the hell David Benevidez is. And that would be another one. So to me, the Munguia, unless it's done in Mexico, but outside of that, Andrade, Eubank Jr. Eubank Jr. in England and Canelo sells, 120,000 seats in the stadium. Eubank Jr. and Bivol Andrade sells a lot just because of Canelo, but it is what it is. But I think the optimal choice for Canelo is for him to get in there with Jamal or Benevidez. But I would like to see him fight Jamal. Most people think that Jamal is a bigger threat to Canelo than Benevidez. And I just think we'll see what happens. But Canelo trying to walk people down style, I just think that Canelo may be getting a little bit old, man. And I'm not just saying that because of the Bivol fight. I'm just saying because it happens. And there were some signs that he couldn't, even this, right? Even though Eddie Reynoso, let's say Eddie Reynoso didn't know what to tell Canelo when he was fighting Bivol. He wasn't giving him the directions for him to make the adjustments to figure out how to get beyond what was being implemented by Bivol in the ring. Okay, so at some point when you're a fighter, you're listening to your corner, but you're the one in the ring. So there's things you're seeing that when you're in there, you can start making adjustments on your own. And what happens, and I never fought professionally. I'm just going to put that out there. But I've done a whole lot of sparring, okay? And I've all over. I traveled a lot. And everywhere I went, I did a lot of sparring. And I actually went in there, man, and sparred with a lot of professional fighters from other countries. But I was no professional fighter. I just, and my occupation, it just made it damn near impossible. But I did a lot of training. I always loved it. But I do remember getting to a point, and I think it's fair to say this about almost anyone who's done any sport. Doesn't have to be boxing. It gets to a point to where one day you're in there and you know what you want to do, but it's hard to execute. Or, especially in particular with like boxing, shots just aren't getting off as fast as they used to, and those are signs that, hey, you're slowing down a little bit. You can't do anything against Father Time, man. And with the wear and tear that Canelo's taking, I just honestly feel we may be seeing Canelo starting to kind of go downhill a little bit. And not because of anything Bivol did to damage him. It just, he wasn't able to make adjustments on his own. Normally, you don't really need your trainer to go in there and make the adjustments. You can see things in your mind, you're telling yourself to do it, and you just can't. And that means that you're on the downside. You're seeing things, you're seeing opportunities, you're seeing shots, and you just can't pull the trigger. And I honestly feel Canelo still has a lot left in the tank, but I feel that he's more running on a 3/4 tank, full tank, opposed to a full tank of gas. And we're going to see what happens in his next fight. I say his next 2 fights, depending on who he fights. And if he can't pull the trigger, if he can't really walk people down, or if he can't get himself out of trouble using his legs, the wear and tear may have finally caught up to him. But I think that's enough for right now, talking about Canelo Alvarez. But the big thing from this is that even a rematch, if he fights Bivol at a different weight other than 175, Eddie Hearn still gets paid. He doesn't care. But if he doesn't fight Bivol and Canelo doesn't really have the legs, he gets in there with Triple G. To me, he's going to end up as a Rock'em Sock'em Robots type fight, because neither one of them, floating like butterflies, stinging like bees. They're both heavy-handed guys with feet like they're stuck in concrete from time to time, and they'll sit there and get their shots off. Both of them have, really strong chins, and they can take shots. But you got to give Triple G a chance in that fight. You really do, because Canelo doesn't like to get pressured, doesn't like to get backed up, and he wasn't really trying to get too many counters off against Bivol, because he was actually protecting himself. With Triple G, maybe something different. But after Triple G, if he doesn't fight the guy who Eddie Hearn has lined up for him in December, He goes in there against Jamal or Benevidez. Good fights, but we'll see. But I just think these fights with Jamal and Benevidez are gaining serious traction now because people want to see it. Canelo's not looking invincible, and we're gonna see how he does against whoever he fights next. And then if he does another fight, and it's not Charlo and Benevidez, we'll see, and then we'll go from there. But I'm gonna go ahead and throw it out there. I think we're starting to see Canelo and the wear and tear of years of training and fighting and boxing and just everything else. I think we're starting to see the signs. And that's my 2 cents. Leave your comments below. Let me know what you think. Shout out to all the veterans. I appreciate the support. Subscribe to the channel. It means a lot to me. And as always, I'm in the breeze.